Welcome to the party, everyone. I might drop my full list of books on my wanted list and sort of research into it. If these books get revised yearly or bi-yearly, every 5 or 10 years or something, then I'll get back to you on it. My mission is to find out how many books there are, but the books that I want to read are all nonfiction. I don't want to read any Harry Potter or fiction right now. It's not that I won't read those books if they're on the shelf. I'll do that separately and on a different iPhone or a different gigabit storage. So yeah, I've got about 80 books in my collection, probably a little bit, like up to 100 maybe. Most of them digital books from Amazon and Apple Bookstore, and I haven't read them. And it's because I want to keep buying books. So I think people are going to think I'm just in it for the collection, which is partially true. I'm not really looking to do anything specific with what I can get from the books. Yeah, and I'm going to do a little case study and research into that using just Google and YouTube to see, just try to show you guys just how difficult it is to be a billionaire, become a billionaire. And I'm going to talk to you about the inadequacies of English, which sort of deteriorate the reputation or the integrity of me, not necessarily everybody who I'm not concerned with. And then I'm gonna, sort of try to decide if I'm gonna tie anything else into that, because what goes on is hacking and stealing, and it's something I might touch base on, like I said, and I'm sort of like building like a little biographical graph of what it is that I feel is happening to me. And I'm gonna teach, sort of not teach, but sort of like try to talk to myself about exactly what happens when I try to read a book, and I just want to read the book and not do anything with it, not like how Mark Zuckerberg read C programming for dummies and made Facebook and became a billionaire off of that. And sort of what I need to do is reread the book like 8 times or 10 times I've read on Google. So it's really weird to read books, and I think unless you get creative a little bit, but basically it's just that weird to read a book that people read to get something out of it, and sort of not plan to do anything with it, or sort of get, not that I don't want to get anything out of it, but that I don't want to work it that hard. So and basically what ends up happening is you end up getting stereotyped when you read a book and try to do something with it. So instead of actually getting something done, you end up ruining your life, letting people ruin your life. And basically the feeling that you get when you read a book and you can't get anything out of it, even if you're going to make $1 million doing what the book taught you, you get stereotyped in the same way, basically. And that's why I think collecting books is a great objective. But now it's no problem to say that, because I've said it on video. And the other problem is you won't get to read all the books if you buy $1 million worth of books, or over $1 million worth of books, or $1 million, 1,000,000 books, or over 1,000,000 books. So basically what people are people who try to get you to shut up and say no, don't buy books, and then they sort of try to control your destiny. And that's sort of something I've read about, that business is really not business, but more like tabloid gossip and like hereditary gossip and shit like that, like biographical gossip or something, biological gossip and headlines and news and media. And it's just not something that I want to do. YouTube is a little different, but you can lose yourself on YouTube very quickly, I feel like the people who do what I like to do on YouTube, like the books and everything, they really do what they love to do right in front of you. So I don't know if that's where they get revenues from somewhere for their stuff and everything. And basically I'm gonna reach the gap eventually, even if I don't buy every video game or every book or watch every movie or buy every device or computer, laptop, or monitor. And another thing happens if I run out of stuff to look for and shop for. I'm not gonna do a landscaping segment. Like at most I will go on Amazon and look up other landscaping business retailers. And that's what I thought made the internet cool, but very quickly I lost myself using the internet. And part of what that is like getting lost in all of the data mining and the marketing, internal marketing that occurs when you use like the internet. it's sort of like if you feel like if you buy your own internet, you might end up seeing the same shit you would see as when you used your parents' internet, and it's you're kind of looking for the solution to that and end up finding yourself in the same position every time, uh, like the people who are billionaires are just not necessarily billionaires, but more like the subjects of gossip and terrorism in the community. And it's something that I'm not gonna get into as a public speaker. I'm not here to tear down walls because I'm not a great leader, and that's one thing I'm showing you by putting the books that I read away and even having trouble reading them and rereading them, because already the community, the fake community, and the haters and investors, they want to gossip about you and make an image out of you. And it's sad that you don't necessarily want to be someone, or maybe you don't understand what's going on. And that's sort of like the Stockdale paradox that we go through as human beings. It's sort of being like a product of this capitalism, and now with the coronavirus rampant, it is really horrible, and yeah. So I think it's hard to think because you don't get paid to think, and if you think about it, eventually you bring up the topic, the subject of getting paid to think. Well, people aren't going to pay you to think. It's very aggravating. Adequacy has everything to do with your geographic disposition on Earth and in the universe. I know it's insane to think about this concept that I'm thinking about, and I'm looking everywhere to look for it. But some of the examples I'm using to draw evidence is the Stockdale paradox and MPI, and the negative effects of saving money. And a lot of headlines encourage you to shop, and spoil yourself. Well, yeah, the things, people who work and go to college for many years, do they look at themselves or do they lose themselves? I'm not looking at it from that perspective, but more of my perspective. How that I feel like that is absolutely what would happen if I went in that direction. And basically, I think that's one thing that universal basic income won't solve is the idea that we reach a point where we have to rethink about what I just said and wonder what's the difference between the 10 people who are in school and working and the 10 people who aren't. So look at like 20 people and look at yourself and wonder, well, is somebody stealing from you or something like that? It's a bizarre concept. Framework that I'm trying to sort of explain to myself, and it's not really interesting to me other than the fact that I'm trying to do something, maybe, or breathe or something, I don't know. Can words really bring a new concept to surface? Are you okay at that point? Or are you just that mission driven? It depends. Today you might feel mission driven to go into work and go back to school, but to someone like me, it doesn't even make sense to begin with. So, I think hypothetical scenarios can sort of help juggernaut the puzzle a little bit to see if that's what's happening. And it's upsetting to think no matter who you are, no matter what you are, you get stuck in a position of gossip and rumors that you can't be taken out of. People end up being homeless on the streets because they bought a Snickers bar. There's bizarre concepts at work, like conspiracy, that sort of evaluate the simplest ideas, such as that people are homeless for no reason, and that homelessness is solvable but hasn't been solved yet. And so people end up being rich and living in condos and living the life that they want to live no matter what, because of who they are sometimes. And whoever falls under the radar, end up being politicians maybe, or people Instagram is a great example of people, the demographic of people who sort of seem to get whatever they want. And it's interesting because I looked up that what Instagram is like a collection of people who see things differently. But what that really means is that like senators like Barack Obama and John Lewis will get sort of broomed under the radar for sort of not being in that demographic of people who just end up having whatever they want for some reason. Maybe there's loan companies that just give out like tons of money to those people, and those people sort of follow the rules of James Altucher just to not really, pay attention to that. It's hard to say. Maybe they are hardworking. I wouldn't guess so, unless they're salespeople. I don't really know who these people on Instagram are. Being a salesperson to me seems very difficult for the same reason as that whatever I was talking about, how that instead of being what Instagram is sort of telling us they're really that, like the subject of gossip. And I think that in this particular instance, somebody tried to cover that up with something nice, not really how I mean it to sound necessarily, but it just goes to show you that context is a tool for something that I'm trying to accomplish. And it's sort of like the Tourette syndrome that you end up getting for working, because no matter how hard you work, you will get Tourette syndrome, no matter what. So it's sad to see somebody with Tourette syndrome run the country or something. Even the billionaire Donald Trump has Tourette syndrome, and we all have Tourette syndrome. It's hard to accept, that we all have Tourette syndrome, in that sense that there's people who live the life that they want, and they get labeled as people who see things differently in that way, that we end up with poor senators and poor presidents. And that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day that's who can't run the country is somebody like that who gets whatever they want. But see, if I want something, then I can't run for president, and I don't want to run the country myself necessarily. It's just something that is happening, and it's some of that in a few seconds I might remember why it's affecting me. Yeah, basketball players are another demographic of people who are sort of living under these people who sort of see things differently, these Instagrammers. And one thing we can all do is read books, but if we don't read enough books, then we're not going to really understand what I'm trying to say in this disposition. And really what it is that I'm bored, is half that and half that I don't really have anything that other people have or don't have, because eventually, a billionaire might end up having more things than the people who seem to have everything. So it's sort of like this odyssey that doesn't exist, and that we're all living up to this apparition that there's like some sort of odyssey on Instagram or something. Maybe there is, and that's why Instagram is a big company, if you think about it. Can it really get any bigger? I don't know. Maybe. One thing I could say is the reason Facebook would buy it is because it can get bigger, It is another reason Facebook would buy it is because it can't get any bigger, but investors will pour $1 trillion into it anyway, and the CEO will get rich, and Mark Zuckerberg wants to get rich doing it. It's okay to not really know what you're talking about today, It's okay not to understand what I mean, that well, it's not really what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, I don't really know what I'm talking about today. It's not okay, and there's MPI, and there's hysteria, mass hysteria. So what I'm trying to talk about now is sort of mass hysteria, and how there's a lot of mass hysteria in MPI, and it sort of ties into the adequacy of the workforce monopoly. How the labor force is really sort of like what the Instagram community is making a mockery out of, And so what I end up doing is telling a lot of people to get out of my life because they have problems, and they don't seem to understand what I'm saying. It's the abuse is too much, and you can't expect somebody to explain themselves clearly when uh, they might not even know what they're talking about. Maybe you are the one robbing me, and I'm trying to explain that. And maybe a conversation can be diluted into nothingness, very quickly. And everybody is sort of living that lifestyle that they're just trying to get people off of them, because sales is that hysterical, and hysteria is in sales, exists in sales and in business. And yeah, we lose ourselves in this conversation trying to figure out, well, what am I really talking about today, and in the future, politicians will be daydreamers, people who talk like this, but in a different way, from a different disposition, and the clouds will run the economy and the community and everything less, because technology existed in 2020, so technology will always be rampant. And the problem with technology is it's hard to understand. So people who aren't really interested by technology in that way, that they want to be a tech entrepreneur, but they're familiar with it, with entrepreneurship, with tech entrepreneurship and tech startups, they yeah, they have that problem that, yeah, they love PS4, they love technology, and they're just stabbed constantly by the hysteria of like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and money and saving money. And there's so much hysteria behind saving money and everything,